I sit in my parents' living room, perched on the edge of the floral armchair that's occupied the same spot for 20 years. Christmas lights twinkle through the windows, reflecting off the framed family photos, lining the mahogany shelves, images of vacations, graduations, and celebrations, where my smile never quite reached my eyes. The fireplace crackles, sending warmth across the room that doesn't penetrate the chill settling in my chest. Juliet's squeal pierces the air as she tears open a small box wrapped in gold paper. Mom, Dad, it's exactly what I wanted. $4,300 you shouldn't have. She pulls out a cream-colored Gucci Marmont bag, caressing it like a newborn. The designer logo catches the light as she bounces on her knees. 26 going on 16. Mom beams. Only the best for our baby girl. Dad nods, satisfied. You deserve it, princess. The room goes still as I carefully unwrap my gift, a small envelope sealed with a snowflake sticker. My fingers don't tremble yet. They've had practice at this. Inside, a $2 paper card with snow-capped mountains and the printed message, "Season's greetings." No handwritten note, no gift card, no check. My face remains composed while something deep inside shatters. 29 years of hope collapse in an instant. Across the room, Aunt Margaret catches my eye. Her mouth opens slightly, horror flashing across her features before she schools her expression. She knows. She sees. Dad checks his watch, fidgeting with the band. Traffic will be bad if we don't leave for the restaurant by 7. Mom hurries to refill Juliet's eggnog, avoiding my gaze with practiced ease. Look how the leather catches the light, Juliet announces, parading around the living room with her new treasure. It goes with everything I own. My hands finally betray me. A slight tremor as I carefully fold the card and slip it into my pocket, a souvenir of invisibility. Earlier today, I stood in my modest Portland apartment, wrapping gifts I'd selected with painful care. My teacher's salary of $57,000, stretched thin between student loans and rent, but I'd saved for months for this day. The Italian silk scarf for Mom, $180, wrapped in silver paper with a bow I'd tied 3 times to get perfect. She'll love the blue pattern, I whispered, smoothing the edges. The Parker pen for Dad, $145 engraved with his initials, nestled in a velvet box. He mentioned needing a new one for client meetings. The rare art book for Juliet, $120, wrapped with a handwritten note about the exhibit we'd promised to see together. A sister promise never kept. Maybe this Christmas will finally be different, I told my reflection as I applied mascara, careful not to smudge. Hope, that stubborn weed, still blooming after decades of frost. Now I stand, smoothing my skirt as the family continues celebrating around me. Juliet snaps photos of her bag for Instagram. Dad pours another bourbon. Mom arranges cookies on a vintage platter. I think I need some fresh air, I say, my voice steady despite the earthquake in my chest. No one looks up except Aunt Margaret, who crosses the room and touches my shoulder. Her fingers press firmly, a Morse code of understanding. You're not wrong, she whispers. You deserve so much more. I nod once, throat tight, and retrieve my coat from the hall closet. The wool scratches against my wrists as I button it methodically from bottom to top. No one notices as I walk out the front door, leaving dinner unfinished. The profound silence follows me down the porch steps, across the icy walkway, to my car dusted with fresh snow. The drive to Council Crest Park takes 12 minutes. I park facing the overlook, Portland's lights spread below like fallen stars. The city continues its Christmas Eve rhythms, oblivious to single-car vigils and broken traditions. When did I become so invisible to them? The words fog the windshield, questions without answers. I remove the card from my pocket. Not just paper, but a symbol of lifelong dismissal. 29 years of hoping for equal love compressed into a mass-produced greeting. My tears finally flow freely, hot tracks down cold cheeks. 29 years of hoping for equal love, and now I see it will never come. The city lights blur through my tears, transforming into smeared watercolors against the night. I wonder how many others sit alone tonight, clutching evidence of their family's failure to see them. Have you ever felt invisible to those who should see you most clearly? A month has passed in silence. Only occasional calls from my family, yet my aunt calls often to check up on me. One Tuesday after work, I spread photo albums across my living room floor, January sunlight struggling through Portland's perpetual cloud cover. 1 month since Christmas. 1 month since the $2 card. Elise Turner, archaeological dig, I whisper. tracing my finger along a photo from my 13th birthday. A supermarket sheet cake sits before me, frosting slightly melted under kitchen lights. My smile looks rehearsed. Beside it, I place another photo. Juliet's Sweet 16 at the Benson Hotel, crystal chandeliers gleaming above a 3-tiered custom cake. Dad's arm draped around her shoulders while Mom adjusts Juliet's new pearl necklace. I never realized how methodically I've documented my own erasure. College acceptance letters, preserved in plastic sleeves. Mine to Portland State with a full academic scholarship. Their note paper clipped to the corner. You'll need to work part-time for expenses. Juliet's to fashion school with their scrawled message. We're so proud. Don't worry about anything but your studies. My fingers shake as I turn to my graduation photos. Mom and Dad arriving 20 minutes before the ceremony ended, Dad checking his watch repeatedly. Sorry we're late, honey. Juliet's preliminary fashion show needed our attention. Mom had smoothed my collar, left lipstick on my cheek, and asked when I planned to start job hunting. The evidence surrounds me like archaeological artifacts of a civilization built on imbalance. I open my desk drawer and pull out a leather-bound ledger book. Inside, columns of numbers track years of self-sufficiency. Student loan statements totaling $24,800, despite working 20 hours weekly at the campus bookstore for $12 an hour. An email printout from Dad. Sorry, we can't help with your apartment security deposit right now. Next to it, a newspaper clipping about Juliet's fashion school. Tuition, $38,000 per year, plus $20,000 for her essential study program in Milan. The figures burn in my vision like accusing neon signs. My current rent statement, $1,200 monthly for a 1-bedroom apartment with unreliable heating. Juliet's Instagram post about her new downtown luxury apartment. Blessed family support. Rent, $2,800. Fully funded. My phone buzzes. I ignore it, focusing instead on a stack of family birthday cards. Mom's handwriting across multiple years. Elise, I retrieve my journal from the nightstand and carefully place the card inside. Beneath it, I write in deliberate letters, the last time I'll beg for love. My phone buzzes again with a family group chat notification. I open settings and silence it. Done. Another text from Mom. Casual dinner Sunday? Your father's grilling steaks? I type, sorry, I have plans. No elaborate excuse, no promise to reschedule. Juliet calls next. Elise, can you help me move into my new place next weekend? Mom and Dad are busy with some financial thing. My finger hovers over the screen. The old Elise would rearrange her schedule, would show up with coffee and donuts, would spend hours assembling IKEA furniture while Juliet directed from the sidelines. I'm not available. I text back. Good luck with the move. 3 dots appear as she types. Disappear, reappear. Finally, what's wrong with you lately? I take a deep breath and type what might be the most honest message I've ever sent. I need some time away from family gatherings. The response is immediate. Mom's going to be upset. I set the phone down without replying. For once, that's not my responsibility. Standing before my bathroom mirror, I study my reflection. The same hazel eyes, the same straight nose, the same person who has spent 29 years hoping for equal footing. When does hope become self-destruction? I ask my reflection. Back at my journal, I write another question. What would I tell my students if they were treated this way? The answer comes with startling clarity. I would tell them they deserve respect. I would tell them love shouldn't require constant proof of worthiness. I would tell them that sometimes the family we're born into isn't equipped to see our value. I close the photo albums, tuck away the ledger of financial inequities, and stack everything neatly in a storage box. Not to forget, to preserve the evidence. To remind myself on weekdays that this isn't imagined. This isn't overreaction. The pattern is real. The erasure is documented. And for the first time, I'm allowing myself to see it clearly. When did you realize a painful pattern in your life needed to change? 6 weeks later, I am already into the new job position, and I am completely focused only on myself. The sun streams through the windows of the pottery studio as I sink my fingers into cool clay. The wheel spins, my hands guide, and something beautiful emerges from nothing. I've been coming here every Saturday morning for 6 weeks straight. The $250 receipt for the course pinned to my kitchen calendar with a magnet that declares, investment in myself. You've got a natural feel for this, Elise, says Miranda. the instructor. Her silver-streaked hair falls across her face as she leans over to examine my work. Most beginners fight the clay. You're learning to collaborate with it. The metaphor isn't lost on me. For 29 years, I've been fighting against my family's perception of me, instead of building something new with the materials at hand. Thank you, I say, applying gentle pressure to form the lip of what will become a serving bowl. I'm trying to be more patient with the process. Not just with clay, but with myself. The words from yesterday's therapy session echo in my mind as clearly as if Dr. Williams were standing beside me. Your worth isn't measured by their recognition. $90 per session, money I once would have spent on elaborate gifts for people who never appreciated them. Now those funds build my interior landscape instead. Last night, I removed the last family photo from my living room wall. The space now holds 3 framed prints I selected from a local artist, images of solitary trees standing strong against stormy skies. My bookshelf has transformed too, filling with volumes I've chosen for myself rather than the literary classics my father insisted represented cultured people. My phone buzzes. Mother's name appears on the screen with her weekly attempt to restore the old dynamics. Elise, dear, I was thinking you should host Easter dinner this year. Juliet is so busy with her new project, and it would give you a chance to show everyone your cooking skills. The ellipsis in her voice carries the weight of unspoken judgment. 3 months ago, I would have agreed immediately, desperate to prove my worth through perfect deviled eggs and a spotless apartment. Today, I set down my clay-covered hands and type a simple response. I'm not available to host Easter this year. I have prior commitments. No explanation, no apology, just a boundary, clear as the line between wet clay and dry table. Very nice, says Miranda, nodding at my bowl. You're finding your center. I am, in more ways than one. Monday morning brings unexpected validation at school. Principal Harrington calls me into his office, sliding my teacher evaluation across his desk with a rare smile warming his typically stern face. This is exceptional work, Elise. The student responses to your creative writing unit were remarkable. I've never seen engagement numbers like these. I accept the folder, scanning the comments from students. One jumps out. Miss Turner's assignment about writing our life story from a different perspective changed how I see myself. I never thought about being the hero instead of the victim. The words land in my chest like a warm stone. All those years feeling invisible, and here I am, helping others see themselves more clearly. There's something else, Principal Harrington continues. We need someone to lead the summer writing program. Your independent spirit is exactly what we need. It comes with a stipend, of course. The word independent no longer stings as it once did when my mother used it to justify her neglect. Now it carries the weight of respect. I'd be honored, I reply, straightening my shoulders. That afternoon, I receive an email inviting me to present at a regional education conference. My finger hovers over the delete button, my first instinct to assume it's been sent to me by mistake. Then I remember Dr. Williams's words. Assume you deserve good things until proven otherwise. I click accept instead. Later that evening, I open my banking app and transfer $500 into the account labeled Home Down Payment, the first deposit of many. A home that will truly be mine, not a space I occupy at the edges of someone else's life. The phone rings at midnight. Juliet's sobbing voice fills my ear before I can even say hello. He broke up with me, Elise. I can't believe it. Derek just walked out after dinner. I need you to come over. I can't be alone right now. The old Elise would have jumped from bed, thrown on clothes, and driven across town at unsafe speeds to comfort her sister. The woman I'm becoming takes a breath. I'm so sorry that happened, Juliet. I can talk tomorrow during my lunch break. What? I need you now. This is serious. I understand you're hurting. I'm available at noon tomorrow. My time matters too. The shocked silence stretches between us, a new territory neither of us has mapped before. I guess I could wait until tomorrow. Juliet finally whispers. Then, something I've never heard from her before. I'm sorry, Elise. I didn't think about what time at Island. After we hang up, I lie awake, half expecting the follow-up call from Mother, outraged at my selfishness. It comes at 1:07 p.m., her angry voice filling my voicemail with familiar accusations. I delete it, without listening to the end. In weeks to come, my support network expands like ripples in still water. Robert, the history teacher whose classroom sits across from mine, stops by my desk after the final bell. I was wondering if you'd like to have dinner Friday, he says, his hands fidgeting with a paperclip. Just as friends, but I've always admired your dedication to your students. Aunt Margaret arrives for a weekend visit, unfolding grandmother's quilt across my bed with reverent hands. She always saw your light, Elise, even when others didn't, Margaret says, smoothing the faded fabric. She left this specifically for you because she knew you'd appreciate its story. My pottery classmates organize a hiking trip to Mount Hood. My therapist notes how my posture has changed, opening like a flower turning toward sun. At a staff meeting, when the athletic director dismisses my suggestion about incorporating creative writing into physical education, my colleague Sandra speaks up. Elise has been saying this for years. The research supports her approach. The family group text pings with cousin Caleb's wedding announcement for June. Everyone responds with enthusiastic acceptance. I type simply, I'll attend, but I'll drive separately. Mother's private text arrives within minutes. Why are you being difficult? I consider a dozen responses before settling on truth without malice. Setting healthy boundaries isn't being difficult. In my calendar, I created the entry. Wedding, 2 hours maximum. Bring Robert? We've been dating for a while. The balcony garden I've started flourishes with herbs and native wildflowers. As evening light filters through the leaves, I sit with my journal open on my lap. The pages contain fewer questions now, more declarations. Today I write, growth requires both distance and nourishment. My fingers, still faintly stained with clay, trace the words. What seeds of self-respect are you ready to plant in your own life? The question rises unbidden as I watch a bee navigate between blossoms, purposeful in its journey. The answer blooms within me, stronger than any doubt could overwhelm, ones that will finally allow me to thrive. And in months to come, I will finally show my family who I am. On the day of the wedding, 3 months later, I step out of Robert's car, smoothing the fabric of my sage green dress. The simple silk falls just below my knees, affordable elegance that took 3 months of careful budgeting. You look beautiful, Robert whispers, his hand finding the small of my back. The country club sprawls before us, manicured lawns stretching toward Mount Hood in the distance. Cousin Caleb chose well for his wedding venue, though I wonder how Uncle George afforded it on his hardware store income. Ready? Robert asks. I nod, more truthfully than I've ever been. 6 months of therapy and boundary setting have armored me for this family gathering. Juliet spots us immediately, waving frantically from the entrance. Her sequined cocktail dress catches the afternoon sunlight, sending prisms dancing across the pavement. Too formal for a garden wedding, but that's Juliet always one notch above appropriate. Elise, you actually came. She air kisses near my cheek, perfume clouding between us. And you brought a friend? Robert Thompson, he says, extending his hand. Elise's colleague. And more, I add firmly. We've been dating for 3 months. Juliet's perfectly plucked eyebrows rise. Mom didn't mention that. Mom doesn't know everything about my life anymore. Before she can respond, Mom appears, her smile stretched thin as worn elastic. Her eyes dart between us, landing on my simple gold necklace, the dress, Robert's steady presence. Elise, darling. Her hug feels mechanical. Your apartment must be getting cramped with company these days. Have you thought about upgrading? The old familiar sting threatens, but I breathe through it. My apartment suits me perfectly. Dad approaches, tugging at his collar. The suit hangs looser than I remember. There's my independent girl, he says, patting my shoulder awkwardly. Your apartment must be getting too small for you now. Same script, different Turner. I simply smile. Aunt Margaret rescues me, swooping in with a genuine embrace. Look at you, she whispers, standing tall. She glances over her shoulder before adding, your parents are having financial troubles. Thomas's investments tanked. The ceremony passes in a blur of white tulle and promises. During the reception, I notice details that would have escaped me before. Dad arguing with the photographer in harsh whispers about payment terms. Mom's handbag, not her usual Prada, but a well-worn leather clutch with a small scuff on the corner. And most telling, Juliet's panicked expression when the bartender returns her credit card, shaking his head. The garden behind the reception hall offers temporary escape. Roses climb trellises, their June blooms heavy with perfume. I breathe deeply, counting backward from 10 Dr. Williams's technique for processing surprise without reaction. Running away again? I turn to find Juliet, her mascara slightly smudged at the corners. Taking a moment, I correct her. The difference matters. She slumps onto a stone bench, unexpectedly graceless. You're different now. Yes. I realized how unfair everything was. The words tumble out, unpracticed. I'm sorry, Elise. I wait, years of experience teaching me that Juliet's apologies often come with conditions. They can't support me anymore. She continues, voice cracking. Dad's business is collapsing. The condo's being sold. My credit cards are maxed out. I sit beside her, maintaining careful inches between us. That sounds difficult. I never learned to stand on my own like you did. A tear tracks through her foundation. I don't know how to live on what I actually earn. The sunset paints the garden in amber light, turning Juliet's sequins into tiny flames. We sit in silence, the first comfortable quiet between us since childhood. Back inside, Dad corners me near the cake table. You've always been good with finances, he begins, voice unusually hesitant. Teachers have excellent retirement planning skills. I sip my champagne, waiting. We might need some advice. Family helping family, you know. Before I can respond, relatives swarm around us. Elise, heard you got department head. Uncle George booms. Always knew you'd be successful. Mom appears at my elbow. Elise was always our practical one, she says, her fingers nervously twisting her wedding band. So responsible. Across the room, Robert chats with his sister who drove up from Salem. She's the most respected teacher at her school. I overhear him say, pride warming his voice. Juliet approaches, subdued. Do you know about affordable apartments in Portland? Maybe with roommates? The irony isn't lost on me after years of invisibility. Suddenly everyone sees me, not for who I am, but for what I might provide. When Dad mentions temporary family assistance later, I maintain polite distance without cruelty. I'm not in a position to help financially. I tell him directly. My budget is carefully balanced with my own needs. To Juliet, I offer what she actually needs. Start with a budget and roommates. It's how I survived my first 3 years teaching. 2. Mom attempts guilt her specialty. We always supported you. Emotionally or financially? I ask quietly. Her silence answers more truthfully than words could. At 9, I find Robert by the bar. Ready to leave? I ask. The relief in his eyes mirrors my own. Whenever you are. We slip away during the bouquet toss, driving toward Cannon Beach rather than returning to Portland. The night air carries salt and freedom as we walk barefoot along the shoreline, shoes dangling from our fingers. You handled that beautifully, Robert says. I watch the moonlight ripple across the Pacific. Sometimes the greatest gift is seeing clearly. The waves crash and retreat, a rhythm older than family patterns. I wonder how many others have found strength in walking away from expectations that never served them, choosing instead the uncertain path of self-respect. The ocean doesn't answer, but somehow, I no longer need it to. A week after the wedding, I arrived at my parents' house exactly at 6, parking my Honda next to Dad's Lexus that now shows patches of rust around the wheel wells. 2 hours. That's all I've allocated for this important family discussion. My watch timer is already set. The front porch light flickers weakly as I approach. No Christmas wreath adorns the door this June evening, but the familiar weight of expectation hangs heavy in the spring air. I knock, instead of using my key. Mom answers, her smile too bright, her hug too tight. Elise, you look wonderful. That promotion agrees with you. I step into the living room, where the furniture seems oddly rearranged. The Italian leather sectional has vanished, replaced by a generic beige sofa. Family photos still line the walls, but the expensive crystal vase that normally dominates the coffee table is missing. Dad rises from his armchair, his shoulders slightly stooped. Punctual as always, Elise. I have a morning staff meeting tomorrow, I explain. I can stay until 8. Juliet sits in the corner armchair, her fingers twisting in her lap. She offers a small wave, but remains unusually quiet. Mom bustles in with a tray of coffee cups. I made your favorite lemon cookies. Family needs to stick together during challenging times. Dad begins without preamble. He paces before the fireplace where no fire burns despite the evening chill. The Turner name has always stood for something in this community. Mom sits beside me, her hand reaching for mine. We've always been so proud of you, Elise. Your independence, your determination, that teaching award. You've never needed much from us. My skin prickles with familiar recognition. The script hasn't changed, just the circumstances. I sip my coffee and wait. The market downturn has been particularly brutal for the investment firm. Dad continues, his voice straining for its usual authority. Our portfolio, well, there have been significant losses. The bank has been calling about the mortgage, Mom adds, her voice dropping to a whisper. We might lose the house. Dad clears his throat. Juliet's lease renewal is coming up next month. That downtown apartment complex raised the rates again. Mom squeezes my hand. We noticed your school district announced that new department head position, the one with the substantial raise. The pieces click into place with perfect clarity. I set my coffee cup down carefully on the table. We're just wondering if you might temporarily help with Juliet's expenses. Dad says, the word temporarily, stretching thin between us, just until things stabilize. Family helping family, Mom adds, her smile wobbling. You've always been our rock. The room falls silent. Juliet studies her expensive manicure, shame coloring her cheeks. I need to say something that's long overdue. My voice sounds steadier than I feel. I reach into my purse and withdraw the Christmas card, now slightly worn at the edges from the months I've carried it. I place it on the coffee table. This was the moment I finally saw the truth. Dad glances at the card dismissively. A Christmas card? Really, Elise, we're discussing serious financial matters here. This isn't about money. I trace the paper mountain scene with my finger. This is about 29 years of messages that I matter less. Juliet's sweet 16 at the Benson Hotel while my 13th birthday was celebrated with a grocery store cake. My college scholarship with your note that I should work part-time, while you fully funded Juliet's fashion school and her semester in Italy. Mom's face drains of color. We never meant. I don't believe you did it consciously, I continue. But it happened consistently. Every birthday, every Christmas, every milestone. That's ridiculous. Dad's face flushes with indignation. We gave you everything you needed. But never what she wanted, Juliet says suddenly. All eyes turn to her. She's right. We've always treated her as less important. I've watched it my whole life and benefited from it. Dad's mouth opens, then closes. The foundation of family mythology cracks visibly before my eyes. This isn't about punishing anyone, I say. But if we want a relationship moving forward, it starts with respect and equality. So you won't help your sister? Mom's tears spill freely now, genuine rather than strategic. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I won't be the family's financial solution while the pattern continues. I won't fund Juliet's luxury apartment when I've struggled to afford my own place. I won't contribute to a dynamic where I give everything and receive nothing. After all we've done for you. Dad's voice rises sharply, revealing his true expectations. This is how you repay us? I'm offering something better than money. I reply, my voice level. I'm offering honesty. I'm offering the chance for a relationship built on mutual respect rather than obligation. She doesn't owe us, Juliet says quietly. None of this is her responsibility. The silence that follows feels like the first honest moment we've shared in decades. I stand, smoothing my skirt. I need acknowledgement of what's happened. I need my boundaries respected. I'm willing to help Juliet find an affordable apartment, create a budget, apply for jobs, but I won't sacrifice my financial security or self-respect. Mom's shoulders shake with silent sobs. Dad stares out the window, his back rigid with pride. Think about what I've said. I gather my purse. I'll let myself out. The night air feels cleansing as I walk to my car. Stars pierce the darkness overhead, witnesses to a truth finally spoken. I realize, starting the engine, that the truth doesn't need to be harsh to be powerful. It simply needs to be spoken. What truth have you needed to speak, even when others weren't ready to hear it? I unlock the door to my new Portland condo, the key sliding into place with a satisfying click. 1 year after that Christmas revelation, my life stands transformed not by what others gave me, but by what I finally gave myself permission to matter. Last box, Robert announces, setting a cardboard container labeled books on the bamboo floor I selected myself. His steady presence these past months has become a comfort I never knew I needed. Not rescue, but partnership. I trace my fingers along the framed house key mounted on the entryway wall. Beneath it, a simple plaque reads, $18,000, the price of freedom, each dollar representing months of overtime, careful budgeting, and saying no to family expectations that once consumed me. Department head looks good on you, Aunt Margaret remarks, arranging wildflowers in a ceramic vase I created in pottery class. She touches my shoulder, her eyes crinkling with pride. You built this life brick by brick, Elise. The afternoon sun spills through windows I spent hours selecting, casting golden rectangles across the dining table set for 4. Not a grand gathering, but an intentional one, Robert. Aunt Margaret and Juliet will join me for dinner. My terms, my space, my boundaries intact. Dad's text message arrived this morning. Hope the move went well. 5 words representing his struggle to navigate our new reality. Mom calls weekly now, her conversation careful but increasingly genuine. Small steps toward what might someday become authentic connection. Juliet arrives, carrying a houseplant and a bottle of mid-priced wine. Her designer bags have disappeared, replaced by sensible work attire from her first real job. The apartment hunt is going well, she says, helping me arrange plates on the table. My roommate works in accounting. She's teaching me about budgeting. Her voice holds a newfound humility that sometimes catches me off guard. Later, as Robert helps me hang curtains in the bedroom, his hands steady on the drill, he asks, "Have you thought about next summer? That cabin on Mount Hood is still available for rent." I smile, no longer afraid of future possibilities. I'd like that, I answer simply. When everyone leaves, I prepare for my first night alone in my new home. I place the Christmas card, that $2 catalyst for change, in a simple frame on my desk. What once symbolized invisibility now represents strength discovered through pain. I open my journal, running my hands across a blank page before writing, "Worth is inherent, not earned or granted by others." At school, a young teacher sought me out yesterday, tears streaming down her face after a family gathering where her achievements were dismissed. I recognized that wounded look all too well. "Your boundaries aren't selfish," I told her, offering tissues and the validation I once desperately needed myself. My savings account grows steadily, now labeled Future Dreams instead of Emergency Fund. The local pottery studio called yesterday about displaying my pieces next month. From my small balcony, I watch the Portland sunset paint the sky in watercolor hues. 1 year ago, I sat in my car sobbing over a meaningless card. Tonight I stand surrounded by a life built on my own terms. The gift, I whisper to the evening air, was finding myself. I close my journal, no longer needing external validation to know my value. Turning off the porch light, I walk into rooms furnished with intention and self-respect. Love that must be earned isn't love at all.